Like, I don't miss the Jude Law, Colin Farrell Justice League that they talked about for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I don't miss that. That would probably have been ass. But Aronofsky doing Batman Year One, that would have been pretty rad.
I think that would have been pretty badass.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Sheboygan.
Sheboygan. There we go. That's a new one. And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Sher.
Yo. Sheboygan, man. Sausage capital of Wisconsin.
That's what I thought.
Do
That's why
do you have a counterpoint to Sheboygan? That's what you should have done right there.
Yeah. Now the Milwaukee?
Waukesha?
Kimmissee? I don't know.
West Dallas?
Yeah, West Dallas. There you go. Fort Worth. So, yeah, we have a very basic episode today. There's not any theme to it or anything like that. We're going to be doing some rants. We're doing some recommends and warns. We're going to answer some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's mad about something?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Lord Jesus! Lord Jesus!
I'm not mad. I'm really not. But I got to talk about this. And I reserve the right to couch everything I'm about to say at the end and right any wrongs as I meander through this.
You're such a dick.
I am a dick. 5-6 days ago, I saw an article making the rounds on social media about how Disney has shown Rise of the Skywalker in advance of its release to a terminally ill child.
Now, this is a very bad start.
Let me go on record first and foremost that I think doing a kindness for a terminally ill child is a good thing. And I am not here to say they should not do this.
Yeah, you are.
Actually, I am here to ask some questions.
Okay.
Why is it national news every time this happens? It makes me think the studio is promoting this kind of a story. And honestly, it's been Marvel and Star Wars over the last 5 years more than any other studio I can think of.
Yeah.
But this is far from the first time I've seen headlines of Disney shows movie early to terminally ill child.
Yeah. No, you're right.
How do they find the child? Are you telling me there's only one dying child in the U.S. that wants to see Star Wars early? What about the hundreds of others who don't get picked?
Mm-hmm. 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 Do you think maybe they are showing the movie to those hundreds and that they're not promoting that? They're choosing one person
The biggest caveat I have to my entire quote-unquote rant is that I don't know. For all I know, they have shown it to 4,000 kids, but it only makes national news once.
Right.
But I doubt it.
You think that it's more likely that they're just choosing one kid, they're going to a rando hospital and
to
being
get
like,
good press
what do you think?
ahead of their movie. And that does not negate the good deed of showing the film to the sick kid. I used to rant about Extreme Home Makeover and about how they would zoom in on these people's tears as they talked about their handicapped son or what have you. And my brother one time was over and he was like, shut the hell up. They get a free house. I'm like, they get a free house they can't afford 4 months later.
That's true.
Because they built it way too big. And this show is using these people to make themselves, make ABC and Tyler What's-His-Nuts look like angels. And it feels very similar to that. It feels like, okay, do you know how many times John Cena has done a Make-A-Wish, grant wish for a sick kid?
I don't.
Over 200. He has the world record in Make-A-Wish wishes granted.
Really?
Does it make national news every time he does it?
Probably
no.
not. No.
Do you see the WWE prop it up every time John Cena goes to a hospital to visit a sick kid? No, because he's doing it for pure motive reasons. He's doing it because he cares. The studio is not showing this film to this one sick kid because they care. If they did, they would show it to all the sick kids. They would have an open. They would say, "Come to Orlando, all thousands of you. We'll show you the film. We'll mail you
dying
screeners."
enough.
I am cynical about the motives of the studio. That's all I'm saying.
Do they need this press though? Do they need it? It's fucking Star Wars.
There's no reason for us to be reading about it if it's not the studio pushing it.
I mean, yeah, I'm
Every
sure they're not
family
saying
with
no
a
to it.
sick kid that has ever had a kindness done to them does not turn to the local news, which then turns to the national news, and it becomes viral.
Of course,
it doesn't happen.
You know, it's not nearly the gesture if you're like, we're going to show you Lady and the Tramp early, or something like that.
I just feel like, I just have questions. That's really all I want to start with. How do they choose the kid?
Yeah.
What about all the other kids that would have wanted to see it too but didn't get chosen?
Yeah.
Can you not do a kindness for a kid and show him a movie early before he dies without it being news? Now we're going back.
How dying is the kid, by the way?
Pretty dying.
Like,
to the point where he's not expected
to
live to when the movie opens.
Oh, so that's the reason.
Well, that's the reason given.
Oh.
I'm going to go way back to Machiavelli's The Prince. I don't know if you read this book, and I'm not saying I'm not saying it should be like your roadmap for life.
No.
But the part that stuck out to me most when I read it in high school was this section about good deeds, where he talked about no true good deed is publicized. The only real good deed is anonymous. And if you accept any thank yous publicly, if you take any credit publicly for doing a good deed, then you have mixed your selfish motives in there, and you're not necessarily doing it for a good deed. This is why a lot of the times I get annoyed when people tell me, do such and such for charity. It's a tax write-off. I don't want to give to your charity so I can get a write-off.
Yeah.
I want to give to your charity because it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And I realize that I'm talking about an ideal that most Americans probably don't live day in and day out. But I remember as a high school student, I was frustrated. I was like, if I help a woman carry her groceries to her car, she's going to see me carry her groceries. I can't do that anonymously, but it's still a good deed. I wrestled with this morally.
Wow.
All I'm saying is if you want to show Star Wars to a dying kid out of kindness, the news doesn't ever need to be involved. And I'm wondering how this comes about, and especially because it's become so common. I've seen this 7 times in the last 5 years
That's
now.
the broader point, is that it keeps happening and it keeps being publicized almost the exact same way. Too.
Yeah. And again, it's a good deed. They're doing a nice thing for that kid. I'm not trying to say they should stop doing it.
I think the more important point is are there other kids on this whole thing? Because I don't know if you can do anything like this in secret necessarily. Maybe you go to them and say, well, we're going to show you this, but you can't say anything. Which would be very
well. That's one of my other questions. Did they make this kid sign an NDA?
Yeah,
I bet you anything they did.
That would be fucking hilarious. This dying kid is tweeting out like,
I bet you anything did, but you know they did. They're so fucking spoiler conscious.
Totally.
Know they did.
Yeah,
Can you believe Baby Yoda shows up and kills the Emperor? Unbelievable.
I mean, they were pissed because John Boyega's script ended up on eBay.
Yeah,
they're
no
not going to
shit.
show the whole film to some rando family without having at least mom and dad sign an NDA.
Oh, absolutely they did. Yeah.
And that takes a little bit of the edge off of your good deed, I think.
J.J. Abrams was pissed.
He was.
At John Boyega.
He was.
Yeah.
So I don't see that guy just showing a film to people without requiring a little bit of, hey.
No, yeah, I agree.
You're not allowed to talk about this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail your point, Chris.
No, that's fine. I somewhat agree. Essentially agree with you about that. I mean, yeah, it does seem like it's. I don't know. My main issue is we have to figure out how this is all done before I think I'd get really pissed off about it, because I would have to know what are the terms. Why are there not more? Are there more? I'd have to know a lot more before I'd be like, I fucking hate this, something like that. I mean, and you're not saying you hate it. You're just saying that the motives seem less than genuine.
I am now questioning the motives, and they don't seem 100% pure to me. And that's really all I wanted to say.
They're definitely not 100%.
Now, I almost tweeted something about this a few days ago until I remembered Twitter is not the place for nuanced opinions. And even this podcast, if somebody hates me enough, they're going to find one section of a sliver I said and make it sound like I hate sick kids, which is not true. I'm questioning the motives. And I think that there are some impure business motives there. And that makes me feel like maybe we're taking advantage of this kid.
Yes, of course, yes.
So that just makes me feel uneasy.
You're right.
It's not a rant. I'm not, like Chris said, until I know all the facts, I'm not pissed off.
Yeah.
but I have some questions.
Yeah.
I may write a strongly worded letter or two.
I think you got your point across with nuance.
All right, good.
You can't do that on Twitter. You're right.
I was pretty nervous because on the surface, I'm about to rant about showing kids like a kindness. That's not really what I'm trying to rant about.
There was a foreword in one of the Dark Tower books that Stephen King. I can't remember if it was in front of a lot of them or if just one particular volume of the Dark Tower series, and that was talking about how he didn't know where this story was going. He was just writing basically whatever came to his head. He has no outlines, and I think he believes that if you have outlines, you're writing bad fiction. And he said that there was a point where a woman who was like in her 80s or whatever, he met her, and she asked him, could you please tell me how the Dark Tower series ends? Because at this point he was in 5 or 6 books and whatever. And he said he nearly cried because he said, I don't even know myself how it's going to end.
Yeah.
And I would definitely tell you, but I don't know,
Where I've seen that is actually an epilogue of sorts, or a coda to the Gunslinger, actually. Like the reissues of the Gunslinger, where he's come back. At that point, I think he had written Wizard and Glass, which is the 4th book, and he came back to reissue the Gunslinger, and he was working on those last few, and that's what I read too. It was like, I still don't know as of writing that, like I still don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mine is very pale in comparison.
Mine is too. Mine's the palest.
Should have just let Jeremy go last on this one. I mentioned the apostrophe S thing a couple weeks ago, and I had an outpouring of outreach and support. But like one of the things that I was talking about was the autocorrect thing on phones. And I know this is probably something that people commonly bitch about. I actually love autocorrect because when I'm sitting there typing, most of the time it knows exactly what word I'm trying to put in there and everything. And so it perfectly, like, I'm like, oh, I'm totally misspelling this, but I know it's going to correct it, so it's good. But then there are the ones where you're typing were, and it wants to make it weir, or weir into were, and you're like, these are fucking words.
Yeah.
Just, you don't have to correct. Why are you correcting this?
Yeah.
And then like you start I don't know if you guys have gotten into that thing where you're like, you back up over a word, and then it starts giving you all these suggestions and everything, and like you hit something just wrong, and then like a whole completely different word shows up. Like, you're trying to type in McDonald's, and then suddenly devil shows up, and you're like, wait a minute, how did that happen? But I don't understand why. There are times where you're typing in something that is clearly a word. It's not a disputed word. It's not something like, the Chicago Manual Style would be like, you can't use that. That's not really proper. It's a real fucking American Heritage Dictionary word. Yeah. And it'll say, and it'll keep correcting it. And you're supposed to, at that point, you're supposed to just hit something over here on the left that's like, here's the word you're trying to type. I know you don't think it's a word, and you should just hit that and just move along. But like, it'll sit there, and if you're not in that mindset and you want to type something off really fast, you'll go 3 or 4 times before it finally, you correct it, and it goes back, and you're like, okay, God damn it. It changed this into David Letterman for some reason. I don't know why. And then you just keep backing up, and finally you just, all right, I'll hit this over here. And then there'd be some strange capitalizations that just show up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, I know I may have typed it like this before, but just because I'm not typing it that way this time means I want you to capitalize it suddenly and everything.
I think this bothers us more because and I think you do too, try to be as grammatically proper as possible, even with informal text.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be misread.
Right. Right. And the only way to do that is to type it as intentionally as possible. I even use punctuation almost every time I text. I try to. Like proper punctuation. And so stuff like that will really grind my gears too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, don't do this for me. I know what I'm doing.
See, I'm different. I've totally adopted the Young's way of, like, I open every tweet with yeet.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it means. I just know the kids say yeet a lot.
It's crazy if you go down your feed, the tweets and replies. It's just yeet, yeet, yeet,
yeet. Yeet. Honestly, don't know what yeet means. I really don't. But no, I feel
It's a
you on
celebratory. It's like a barbaric yawp.
You guys are both iPhone guys, right? So do you type every letter, or because I have a swipe keyboard where I basically outline over the keyboard where
type every letter.
Because I feel like there's a whole second level of frustration with this when you have a swipe keyboard.
Yeah.
Because like every time I try and do or, it does it, and there's like 12 words I use regularly that it always gets fucking wrong, and I have to be like so fucking deliberate. I'm like, where's the AI, bitch?
The swipe is so good though. I used to have the swipe.
I think Google bought them.
No. I mean, I had like an Android phone.
Oh, okay.
A long time ago, and God, I missed the swipe. The swipe
I like
was
it.
good.
I couldn't do it if I had to type every single letter. It would drive me crazy.
You get
I would
used
just
to it,
start
but
doing
yeah.
voice to text if I had to do that.
And they have that. There is that too. You
But
can
talk about typos and that.
Yeah, no. Every once in a while it'll be like, do you want to do this diction style? I'm like, no, fuck you. I want to type
Well,
it.
even if you hit like the wrong key accidentally, it'll bring that up.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like the if and of. I swear to God, I'm typing of, and it'll change it to if, or I'm just like constantly hitting that I, which is right next to the O, and I don't know it. But I'm like, how is it that I can type independently an I or an O in other words and not have that same thing happen? But when it comes to if and of, fucking changes, or I somehow miss it every single time.
Yep.
I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm like, you like aim your finger right at the O, and then like, oh, finally, you got it now. You got that one, huh? You little dick.
Oh, see, you were somehow angrier about that than I was about the sick kid.
Yeah, I know.
I got you. I feel your frustration.
Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, everybody has that problem. It's not like it's not something that I'm bringing up that's other people don't have probably ranted more about than I have here. But it is something that I'm just like, I don't understand why it is the way it is about certain things on the autocorrect.
I have a rant about something even less important.
Yeah?
Sweet.
Really? How's that possible?
But it's always the least important things that drive you the crazy.
It is.
Went to see Knives Out recently. We in Nashville, now pretty much everywhere at our movie theaters, have the fancy reclining selected seats. There's some theaters in the 27 that still don't have it.
Yeah, not every auditorium has it.
Right.
They'll have the stadium seating still because that's what they built into the whole thing, but they don't have recliners.
Yeah. So the one that I go to regularly in my neighborhood was built fairly recently, and it's got the reclining seats, and it's got nice long leg room, nice little tiers and all that stuff. And you recline, and you get the tiers, and it's even got a little glass plastic partition above the section in front of you, right? Presumably, I guess to kind of, if there's any reflection from like a phone or something like that.
Oh, it's a sneeze guard.
Sneeze
Could be a
guard.
sneeze guard,
like
that's
at a salad bar?
Well, yeah. Well, there is a salad bar right across the side of it.
God damn it! I keep missing the
You
salad
missed
bar.
the salad bar, yeah.
I am a fairly average sized dude, at least in terms of height. I'm about 5'10", 5'11". Anytime I recline my seat back to a comfortable position, is there masking on the bottom of the screen, or is it just on the sides?
I don't know how they do it in digital these days. The masking is a completely different animal as it used to be.
Okay.
Like with 35, you had an aperture plate that a technician would come in and file just so. It's a metal thing that you would pop in. So like if you didn't have it in there, the image would just be top, left, right, bottom of the screen.
Right.
In addition to the screen. So that the whole thing is to stick that in there and it blocks everything off. Now the digital, I'm assuming there is some sort of digital masking of some sort.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably.
So there's the very bottom of the screen, and then there's a tiny little section between the bottom of the screen and the actual movie, the picture. when I recline back at least to just a very, like, close to comfortable range, that glass partition is poking up into the movie itself, into the image.
That's bad design.
And so if I go back any further, it gets further up onto that. If I go up, I'm essentially sitting up.
Mm-hmm.
I can scooch my ass up to like almost to the back portion of it, and I can barely see right over it. But that's uncomfortable. That negates the whole fucking point of having the comfy reclining seats.
Yep.
Now, is this like the first world problemsiest rant ever? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But me as an average size adult should not be having this problem. Matter of fact, people who are smaller than me, you probably don't have this problem, Chris, because you're tall.
I have run into it before.
You have?
Not often, but I have.
I suppose
I know what you're talking about.
it also depends on the angle in which that you're sitting in the movie theater. And typically I do sit on the side. So maybe that's it. But it's happening all the time.
The problem is that plastic guard. It's not protecting anything.
What is
and
it there
doesn't
for?
make any sense. Why did they put it like the Regal that I go to most doesn't have that. It just has a wooden thing, and it's
Really?
perfect. I can recline all the way and still see the full screen. But if there were a 6-inch plastic do nothing guard on top of it, I would have the same problem you're talking about.
So maybe it's just my theater.
I
Is it,
honestly
haven't really got.
don't
It's an
know.
AMC.
I've
probably
seen
the
it.
problem.
I've seen it before, and the other AMC's I've been to, the Thoroughbred is one.
Uh-huh.
I may have run into it in there before.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that plastic thing is there for. I'm assuming, I don't know. I'm assuming they think that. I don't know. I really don't know what they answer.
It might be. I'm honestly now trying to figure out why it's there. It might be like an attempt at a noise barrier. So, like, if you were talking too loud, that plastic might block your noise.
That does, it definitely does nothing.
No, not in that
Yeah,
Knives Out showing.
Because I like. I mean, and by the way, I've ranted about this before. You are not as quiet as you think you are when you're talking in the movie theater.
No, definitely not.
If you're even doing this right here, people can fucking hear you. and like I know that there are certain parts of a movie or parts of a trailer or whatever where people are like, you know, who gives a fuck? You know, you don't need to hear whatever's going on there, and people take that opportunity to just talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that Knives Out. Every once in a while, it would get silent enough, and you hear those people going, "Ha ha, yeah, blah 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 blah."
Oh my God! I swear to God. Okay, so trailers come up, and we're talking during the trailers and stuff like that. Trailers come up, everything, lights go down. We're all ready for the show to start, and as soon as the lights go down, this dude right down the row from us is like, "Boy, it sure got quiet in here, didn't it?"
yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's a goddamn movie. He's an old guy, so you know he's experienced a movie before.
And there's a plot point in Knives Out where somebody says something, and the situation has changed if you're following along, and someone goes, not anymore, just out loud, and like, yeah, we all figured that out. Fuck face.
I'm telling you, you're making an excellent argument for me not going to the movies any more often than I do currently.
Well, I mean, typically it was weird because typically I'll see a matinee or something like that, and I'll maybe be the only person in the theater. But this one had a lot more people than I'm used to, especially for just like an early afternoon thing. So
yeah.
But yes, that the plastic partition. I must know why it's there.
You should ask if they have any booster seats.
Oh,
I could.
And then you could be up higher and you could see over the plastic glass partition.
Because nothing is more comfortable than a booster seat.
That's
I'm telling
true.
you, booster
For
seats
2.5 hours.
Comfort.
I was literally sitting like on the back edge of the recliner because when you sit in the recliner like that, your natural tendency is to slouch down anyway. So I was like moving my ass around. I was trying to like do this. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah, no idea. I would love to know that myself, why they put those up there. And obviously, you know, when they decided to retrofit these theaters or build these theaters, it's not like there was somebody going around to each seat and like figuring out, and figuring out the best possible way of doing it. They did it the cheapest way possible.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, at least you don't have like obstructed views like most sporting arenas, like there are like 12 seats or so that you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Because they sold you a seat behind a beam.
Yeah.
I've done that many times when I went to Wrigley. There was a couple. I mean, you could get obstructed views for, $2 or something like that. And so I'd just go and, you always find a place to move to at
Eventually,
Wrigley.
yeah.
Maybe not anymore, but.
Back when they sucked every year, for sure.
Well, we actually got tickets. I told you to see Home Alone at the National Symphony, and it's the movie up on a screen and all that with the orchestra playing along. And so we got one, and it said on the ticket, it was in a box. It said on the ticket, semi-obstructed view. And I was looking at where it was at, and I was like, no, that should be fine. Everything should be fine. So then we called them, and we were like, how obstructed? And they were like, oh, you're behind the screen.
Oh, no. That's completely
They
obstructed.
moved
Yeah.
the screen, and I was like, well, you should probably tell us that.
You should probably not sell that ticket.
Exactly. Even more
That's-
important.
Yeah, that's like here, obstructed view, and then you're outside.
I remember when Lucas Oil Stadium opened in Indianapolis, because I'm a Colts fan, and I remember when it opened, fans found 5 seats that should never have been screwed into the concrete. That's just the view so obstructed. Only Ebenezer Scrooge would try and put a seat there and charge a ticket price for it. But this was a stadium that had just opened. And they're like, somebody intentionally fucked over people.
You're
some
sitting there
asshole they have
staring
to be.
directly at a beam.
No, I want 60,001 chairs, not just 60,000.
Good rants.
Good rants.
Okay.
I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
It's unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
You know how everybody involved with Justice League has lately started talking about the Snyder Cut,
Yes.
Yeah.
including Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck?
And Zack Snyder.
And now Zack Snyder 2 days ago tweeted out, does it exist? Yes, it fucking does, or something like that.
Okay.
Here's my conspiracy theory. I believe the studio is tired of being harassed by the Snyder Cut people.
Mm-hmm.
They can't tweet anything without being flooded with hundreds of replies about the Snyder Cut.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have decided to, in some manner, release this film, whether it's glorified, souped-up Blu-ray that has multiple versions, or put it up on HBO Max, as I've seen rumored here and there. And then, today, I read that the cinematographer came out and said only 10% of what Zack Snyder shot is in the final film, which is honestly hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that the studio would have let Joss Whedon reshoot 90% of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the claim by the cinematographer. My conspiracy theory is all of these people are talking about it because the studio has decided to put it out to quiet the crowd, and they want to make whatever they can out of it. So this is a subtle buildup of marketing to have, when Ben fucking Affleck goes on Twitter and says release the Snyder Cut. In my mind, there's only 2 options there.
Mm-hmm.
One was that maybe he fell off the wagon, and I hate to say that because I'm not joking, but that's the kind of thing that might happen. And 2 is that he's got a reason to do. He's not connected to this franchise anymore.
No, and then Zack Snyder retweeted that.
Yeah.
And Gal Gadot did her thing right around
And
that time,
Aquaman
too.
and Ray Price or Ray Fisher, whatever his name is.
Ray Fisher,
the guy that played
cinematog-
Cyborg.
Oh, yeah. So do you think that they've been actually working on this, though,
I don't know about that.
in between, or that it has existed this entire time and they're not doing anything new to it?
I mean, if they release it from the sound of it, they'd have to release it with unfinished footage. They're not going to spend millions of dollars to complete CGI.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's pretty clear that the release the Snyder Cut people are never going to go away.
No, they're definitely not.
The only way you will ever get them to go away is to show them what they want. They will still believe it's Best Picture at the Oscars, no matter what it is, but at least they'll stop asking for it.
That's true.
And what do you lose if you put it out there? If you at least caveat it as
it's
this is an
unfinished.
unfinished director's cut, what does the studio lose any face? Do they lose any money?
I mean, if they're not completing CGI and stuff like that, and you're seeing bare bones shit like that, I don't think that's amenable
Seeing
to anybody.
time code at the top of the screen.
Yeah, and little dots on
See,
fucking Cyborg and shit.
I don't think the people that want the cut care about that. I think they believe they could see through unfinished shots and unfinished CGI
That's
to
interesting.
see the vision, because these people are already convinced it's a superior film because they're all in. They actually want to take Danny Elfman's score out and put Junkie XL's score back in, which is, you don't like music if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But Junkie XL is such a big Zack Snyder buddy and fan that it's all encompassing. We have to see Zack's original vision because that was so superior. I just think the studio is going to do something, and they have at the very minimum given the green light to people involved in the film to tweet whatever they want about it. Because there's a reason Zack Snyder didn't say there's a Snyder cut for the last 2 years, but did 2 days ago.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but he could have said it 2 years ago, and he didn't.
Yeah.
I just think there's something to work there.
I think you're giving this Justice League director's cut short shrift, Jeremy. Batman v Superman director's cut was fucking amazing.
Oh,
God
you're right.
damn.
It fixed all the problems with extra length.
Yes.
Not only did we watch that, just as an exercise, when you sent it and you had to send it against the regular version, and god damn.
Yeah,
that was a thing.
Oh, it was a masterpiece. You got to admit, though.
It is compared to Justice League.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do some recommends and warns.
Yeah.
Totes amazeballs.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Anybody got some movies that they want to talk about? Some movies?
I only have positive opinions today. I come armed with 2 recommends and no warns, no reca-warns.
I have
right.
only negative opinions.
That's great. Then you and I should alternate. What about you? What do you got? One
I
of
have a
each?
mix.
All right. So there you go. So I'll go first with an unexpected recommend. A movie called McFarland USA.
I heard of this.
This is a sports movie. Kevin Costner coaching a cross-country team in a border town that's mostly filled with Hispanic kids. It's not a very prosperous town. Most of the kids' families are migrant workers. And Costner has basically fucked himself over at his last couple jobs. Well, I think he screamed at a football player at one school, and he knocked over a table at another one. He gets this job because they literally have nobody else to hire. They're desperate. So they hire this old white man, Kevin Costner. Now, most of the movie is about him acclimating to that culture, understanding that culture, and then taking his usual motivation techniques as a coach and rolling them in with what he has learned about these kids. Now, you could not have sold me on a movie with Kevin Costner as a coach of a cross-country team if you tried. Like, you could have said, there's literally naked boobies in every scene, and I would have retorted, but it's Kevin Costner coaching a cross-country team. But it gave me all the same feels of any of these good sport. Like, there are good sports movies, and then there are just decent ones. But like, Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights. I got the same kind of feels, and this is also based on a true story. So this guy comes out of nowhere and takes a team of nobodies. Most of them they can't even run half a mile without falling out winded. By the end of the season, they win the fucking state championship, and then they win 9 of the next 10 state championships.
Jeez.
And it's all based on a true story. But man, it made me feel good. Like he moves to town, and his neighbor gives him a chicken, like a live chicken, and like she hands it to him, and he's like, "Oh, this is for me." And she walks away, and he's like, "Well, thank you. Got a chicken now." And he obviously overestimates, these kids are like any other kids. I can motivate them the same way I would anybody else. But he realizes, a lot of these kids, they're only running to escape, being at home. They're not running because they love running. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed it. It came and went. I don't remember anything about it when it was in the theaters. I think it's like maybe 5 years old.
5 years old?
8 years old, somewhere around in there.
So it is older Kevin Costner. It's not like vintage Kevin Costner.
No, do you know what year it came out? 2012, 2010?
I think it was a little bit earlier. I mean, later than that, maybe 2015.
You may be right. But I really, really enjoyed it. And I couldn't really think of very many negative things to say about it other than the fact that it's about, cross country.
Wow. So 2015, PG. So right in that good feeling sports movies.
Yep.
He's good in it?
He's great. Kevin Costner, I feel like when he tries too hard, that's when he's less great.
Yeah.
And so you get something like
The Postman.
Yes. He's fine. He's great. A number of actors could have done the role, I think, but it's just a really quality story.
Yeah.
And eventually they accept him and he accepts them and yada, yada. And it was a great ending shot over the credits because apparently all the kids on that first team he coached to state still come out every year and run with the kids on the team that year.
Oh, yeah.
And so the final shot of the movie is the real people, not the actors, running with the real coach, not Kevin Costner, and a group of like what looks like ninth graders. And apparently they do it every year, and it's like a strong community thing. It's made them all love calling that place home. I really, really liked it.
I'm going to watch this.
Yeah, I think
this
you
sounds
enjoy
great.
it. So there you go.
Nice.
There you go. Cross-country movie. I just endorsed it.
Yeah.
Cats and dogs.
Yeah.
It also has naked boobies.
It does not have naked boobies.
No naked boobies. On a feel-good sports movie, you should have boobies running around all the time.
I'm telling you, that's why they were in Logan.
Yeah, that's true.
What?
That's very true. Yeah, so I went to the Blu-ray collection a couple weeks ago and was like, I'm going to watch this movie Crawl that came out.
Oh, yeah.
I had heard
Good reviews.
I'd heard good things about it.
Isn't this your girl from Crazy Stupid Love?
No, this is Kaya Scodelario, who's in Maze Runner, and she's in that last Pirates movie.
Does she kind of look like that girl from Crazy Stupid Love?
I guess a little
babysitter?
bit. The Anna Lee Tipton is
That's
the
right.
one that's in Crazy Stupid Love. I guess she kind of has some look to her, but I don't know that she. I've heard people compare Kaya Scodelario to other actresses before, and I don't remember which ones, but I can show you a picture.
But this is the Gator. Yeah, I think she looks like that.
She's also
babysitter
in
from
that
Crazy
Ted
Stupid Love.
Bundy movie
Oh,
that was on Netflix.
Oh,
the one with Zac Efron.
Yeah. So it's directed by Alexandre Aja or Aja or however he pronounces it. I've never heard it. Yeah, Aja. Never heard it pronounced. But he's done a lot of super bloody, gross horror movies. Now this one is a little bit tame for him, even though we have alligators at the center of it and everything. Kaya Scodelario I think she goes to Florida, like that's her college. She goes to Florida, and she's been trying to get in contact with her dad and can't seem to get him on the phone, and then she says, "All right, well, I guess I'm gonna see what's up." Problem is, there's a hurricane coming. And he lives somewhere, like, I don't think hurricanes hit Gainesville that often. I think this is somewhere further down. And so she's driving out and there's a hurricane coming and they don't want to let her pass this one threshold. But of course she decides to find a way to get around it and everything. All I could think about during this entire movie was The Equalizer 2.
The Equalizer 2.
It's all I could think about. Because the same thing happens. Yeah,
there was a hurricane at the end of that.
Yeah, there's a hurricane.
Oh, I forgot about
he meets the bad guys in this evacuated area and everything. And there's a point where he's trying to go through, and they're like, "No, you can't." And he's just, "Fuck you, I'm going." And so the whole thing, I was sitting there going, "God, this is." I mean, they might as well have shot these movies at the same time.
Oh man!
And but she goes to their family house. I guess her dad and mom have divorced or something like that. They go to the family house. He's nowhere to be found there. He's like, well, maybe he's at his bachelor house or whatever. So she goes over there and can't find him for the longest time. Then finally goes down to the basement and sees that he's been injured and he's knocked unconscious and he's down in the basement. He was working on something. Hurricane's coming. So she needs to find a way to get him through this really complex basement. There's just boards and pipes and everything. It's like a maze.
Simplify your basement.
It's like Pac-Man going around a basement. She tries to drag him through, and her dad's played by Barry Pepper. And she's trying to drag him through, but then, oh no, there's an alligator down there.
Oh yeah.
And so the movie becomes a series of I need to go here, but I need to avoid the alligator somehow. And then you find out there's even more alligators, and then that they're coming through this one spot in the house even, and there's more than you think. And so like, it's a whole bunch of just, like I need to get here, but I can't. I can try to get here, but I'm probably going to get massively hurt doing so, and so on and so forth. I'm going to say full on Warren on this movie.
Oh, really?
And maybe I was just in a bad mood. I don't know what it is, but I was like, man, I feel like with this premise, you should do a little bit more than just have your characters trapped in a basement and just like, I don't know, just trying to find these little. It's the movie doesn't have very much excitement to it, essentially. Like, I mean, alligators are scary, but it's not like Jaws where you're just, I don't know, you're not in, I didn't feel like any constant fear about it or anything. And there are some moments in here that are okay and everything. But like, as the hurricane is coming in and the floodwaters outside, there's just like nothing but gators everywhere. Just like an insane amount of alligators and everything.
And then the Meg shows up.
But yeah, I felt like this could have been a little bit more suspenseful. A little bit more stuff to figure out in it and everything. When you relegate it to just the basement for nearly the entire movie, you lose some things out of that. I feel like it needed to be like the full house or a bigger house somehow or something to that nature, and just and there would have been more challenges along the way. And instead, it's more like, well, should I try to brave it? I mean, the one thing about it is a hurricane is coming in, and floodwaters are going to flood that entire basement, so you have to act quickly and everything. But yeah, I was disappointed in this movie.
Yeah. Do you think that had you not heard anything about it at all, because I've only heard positive things, like it's good, campy fun, that kind of thing. Do you think that if you went into it just completely blind, that you would have enjoyed it more?
It's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. There are some, like I said, there's some moments, like especially when the movie does get to the outside and they're like calling for help, and there's people who are showing up at gas stations and stuff like that, where the movie does get a little campy fun. Not enough of that.
Yeah.
Not enough of that for me anyway. Maybe enough for people who were not expecting anything when they went to go watch it and everything. But I got bored. I got bored with this movie.
Yeah.
And maybe, like I said, every time when we do these things, we watch a movie for the first time, there could be just our experience at the time. And watch it again later, I might love this movie. But I thought it was boring.
Fucking ayah.
I know.
Ayah.
Ayah.
Okay. Here's something that I think you've seen, Chris. I don't know if you've seen this. El Camino.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, I have seen it.
I do remember Brad Pitt in.
Oh yeah,
in that
the Mexican
movie going El Camino.
Yeah.
So I had heard from just about everybody that it was inessential, but it was really good. And so I decided, hey, fire it up. I love Jesse Pinkman. I want to return back to the Breaking Bad universe. I love Better Call Saul. This should be fun. And it was not. I did not like this movie at all. It's not a bad movie. It's almost like what I said about The Irishman. It's not a bad movie. It's really well done. It's Vince Gilligan. He doesn't really make bad shit. But I didn't like it at all. Not only did I think it was inessential to continue Jesse's story, that last image of him from Breaking Bad is perfect. Of him just with that unbridled fear, joy, like just cathartic thing. It actively annoyed me that we were adding a coda onto this when it absolutely didn't have to be. By the end of it, I was just like, man, this is so unnecessary that it's aggressively annoying me. So I would totally warn this. Did you enjoy it?
I did.
Yeah.
I saw it basically the day it came out.
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
So I did like it because while I agree with you about that final image of Jesse and everything, I think they told a story that that is befitting of what would happen later. and it does feel like a nice like continuation episode. It's a one-off. I enjoyed every bit of that. Him trying to figure out what he needs to do from here. It does feel unnecessary though. There is an unnecessariness to it. But the way he shoots things and the way he grabs you in the story, I think about what would this movie be like if we didn't have all these seasons of Breaking Bad before it and it was just this movie.
That's an interesting thought exercise.
I don't know if that's possible, but I'm sure there's people out there who've never seen Breaking Bad who have seen this movie because of the Netflix, of the Netflix thing.
Probably so.
They just what is this, and just watched it. And I'm trying to think if there's anything where you'd be necessarily lost because.
Well, they give you a lot of flashback.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because Jesse Plemons revives his character in this. And he was in Breaking Bad, I think, the perfect amount. Now, he's a terrific actor. I love Jesse Plemons. But I think his character needed to be in small doses, like quiet but deadly, right? And in this one, he's so overexposed that it like detracts, I think, from his overall character arc. We got enough of that character. We got enough of all those characters.
And you got and one thing, and not that this is the movie's there's anything that the movie was trying to do here, but you do get to see Robert Forster one last time too, and he died, I think, the day of this thing coming out.
Wow.
Oh, that's right. Oh, wow.
So you get to see Robert Forster, and I love that scene where Jesse goes in to talk to him. That scene's fantastic.
Yeah. I'd actually forgotten that he was the fixer. And so you hear that voice, and he's got that unmistakable Chicago type of voice. And, you hear that he's off camera, and I'm like, oh, that's Robert Forster. Yay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I just feel like Dicer and I go round and round on this topic all the time, where I will say that movie's unnecessary, and he'll say, well, who cares as long as it's good? And that's generally the circle he and I dance around. And I guess I just feel like, man, maybe not everybody's like me, but I feel like when you do this, you take from your original audience the ability / right to imagine Jesse's future for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's almost the reverse of that Patton Oswalt rant about the prequels. I don't want to see Darth Vader's ballsack or whatever it was. I just want to see Darth Vader. I don't want to see... I liked not knowing where Jesse went.
Yes.
I liked having the freedom as a viewer to decide that.
Yes.
I think this happened. I think that happened. The way I most recently explained it is when you read a book, one of the things that's great about a book is that no matter how much detail a book gives you, you can still picture things in your own head as you want to picture them. Not necessarily as the author would picture them or as another reader would picture them, but you get to fill in the gaps the book doesn't give you detail on visually. And I feel like when you make a movie or a TV show, the same kind of thing happens when it ends. You get to fill in the gaps. Like if Return of the Jedi, the first trilogy of Star Wars was all we'd ever got. Well, I think Han goes on to marry Leia, and they're gonna have kids, and one will be a Jedi, and then they come around behind you and tell you what happens. It takes away that story that you made up, which in a lot of cases has been what's connected me more to the thing.
Oh, totally. And you could argue, the finales that have missed the mark in general, Lost, Seinfeld, even stuff like that. Like maybe you could stand a course correction, like when they did the Curb Your Enthusiasm reunion thing, which is much better than the Seinfeld finale. With this, you could argue that Breaking Bad's finale is one of the best, if not the best, series finales of all time.
Well,
so it didn't need any course correction whatsoever.
Well, and famously, the 7.5 Harry Potter movie ends with that flash forward because she apparently thought every reader and viewer needed to know that Harry married Jenny, and then they named their kid fucking Albus whatever,
Severus.
And I think even fans of the books were like, I didn't really need all that.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
And I just feel like I can't blame Vince Gilligan. I can't blame Aaron Paul.
Yeah, do what you want,
They found
man.
a story they wanted to tell. That doesn't mean I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Because once I watch it, I no longer get to predict Jesse's future. It's told there for me. And I feel like you make a deal with your audience when you show them, a 6-season show or 2.5-hour movie, and then you leave it with them when you're done to process and speculate. And this is,
Do you put this on par with what George Lucas did with the Star Wars movies? By making the special editions?
No. Because that would be like if Vince Gilligan re-released episodes of Breaking Bad but had new cuts or new edits or changed something.
But in a way, I mean, the same argument is there where you have this is the movie that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And now I'm adding things to it because I considered it incomplete, which is bullshit, and everything. So it felt like the same kind of deal. I know that it's not, because in this case, it's somebody just saying, "Well, here's an extra chapter of the book that I was writing, and I know that you loved how that finished and everything, but here's an extra one for you to read." And I don't know where the line is on that one, because
it's almost similar to what happened at the end of Dr. Sleep, or the shining sections of Dr. Sleep that I didn't need rehashed at all.
Yeah,
because it stands alone. Yeah, if you want to tell another story about Danny Torrance in a different context, all right, fine. But and I enjoyed that part of the movie. But when they started talking more about the shining story and things like that, I don't need that.
I just feel like, I honestly think this is probably because I'm a writer, and I don't see myself ever doing this kind of thing. Like I've said famously several times, there's going to be 4 Abel's books, no more, no less. And
3 is the number that shall count, and the number of the counting shall be 3.
Maybe 10 years from now, something happens, those books are more popular, somebody gives me $10 million to write a 5th one, and I change my mind.
5 is right out.
I feel like Vince Gilligan called Aaron Paul and was like, dude, Netflix just offered me $5 million to make a Breaking Bad movie. Want to get the gang back together for a month in the desert?
Yep.
Okay. And I don't blame them.
And they did it in secret, too.
I don't blame them for that. I just feel like a proper story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you don't ever let it end, or if you keep going back to rewrite the beginning, then you take something away from the experience of those people who first read or watched the story.
I agree.
That would be funny, though. 15 years from now, Jeremy gets a truck to back up and like millions of dollars or whatever, and then before you know it, we've got Abel's 5 horror fister.
I also, and again, maybe I'm crazy here, but I feel like if I have one thing that's a hit in any medium, a TV show, a movie, a book, I believe I'm going to have another one. I don't necessarily have to always keep going back to that one well.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just foolish thinking. I don't know. But J.K. Rowling doesn't need any money.
No.
She's got more money than God. But she keeps making Harry Potter shit. And she keeps talking about Harry Potter shit. like she doesn't want to write anything new.
She could write anything she wants at this point.
Yeah.
She's had, like you said, so much money and everything. You're just like Daniel Radcliffe at this point, where I'm just going to do stuff that's interesting to me because I've made all the money.
Yep.
And she's young. She's relatively young too.
Yeah. So you can,
like you're relatively young.
I'm relatively a spry 23.
What? Okay, guys, it is time to talk about Mubi.
Yeah, baby. How do you say Mubi in French?
Oh,
Le Mubi.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of French stuff on there.
I actually just wrote a sin with French.
Really?
Oh,
it's they're driving in mountains on a road that I would never ride on, and they're not in America. And I said, in English, the name of this road translates to Nope Road, but the French call it Le No.
He totally wrote that in French.
So yes, there are a lot of selections that are in French on Mubi right now. One is probably familiar to many of you. It's Luc Besson's La Femme Nikita.
La Femme Nikita.
A movie that was remade as Point of No Return here in the U.S. with Bridget Fonda. Back in 1993. This one came out in 1990. I think maybe 91 in the U.S., but 1990. And I don't know if this was Luc Besson's first movie. I can't remember if it was or not, but it's one of the first or the first of his many like female assassin or female protagonist leads the action movie charge type of movies, because he did The Fifth Element, and of course he did Joan of Arc, Messenger.
The Professional is
ostensibly
and that came out after La Femme Nikita.
Yes,
right?
that came out in '94. Of course he's done Lucy and Anna and all these movies.
Let's forget about that.
Exactly. But this movie's really good.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, like it's one of those movies that just sort of wraps you in. You've seen this kind of movie. Like it's not going to be anything new to you if you revisit it now, because you've seen so many of these type of things. There's something about this one that's a little bit more elevated.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's a more focus on story than style and substance and style.
Well, yeah.
And so that's the thing, that when imitators come along and they make their own, even Luc Besson, they like, oh, well, you like these elements to it, but they don't think about the story and everything. And this is one of those where you're watching, you're like, man, I'm really getting into this. I really care about this character and everything. And she's done some awful things, and and
she's an assassin, right?
Yeah. So she is this woman who is a part of some gang that's robbing a store, and the police come, and she like just cold-blooded murders this cop. I think she's the only one left out of her gang after the shootout and everything. She gets sent to jail. She's going to get a death sentence. And so she believes that she's going to die, and they're like injecting her and all that. And so she wakes up however many days later or whatever in this just isolated room. And from there she slowly learns that she is going to be getting all sorts of lessons in shooting and fighting and reading and writing and art and poetry and ballet and all this stuff too. And she is being trained to be an assassin, and she gets one job before she's allowed to leave the little institute thing that she's in, and then after that she's a sleeper cell. So anytime someone calls her and says, hey, here's the job, she goes to a place and finds all of her equipment and just blasts somebody out.
The code phrase is the wildebeest howls at midnight.
Yes.
Is it really?
No.
It's been I've seen this, but it's been forever since I've seen it.
Oh yeah, it's really good, and it's on Mubi right now.
Nice. Speaking of Jean Reno movies, there's a movie on there called The Crimson Rivers. This is directed by Matthew Kasovitz.
Yep.
What else? Do you know off the top of your head what
he
done?
did? Gothica.
Oh, really?
He also is probably best known as the guy that Amelie falls in love with in Amelie.
That's right. That's where I recognize.
So
that
he's
name.
got an acting and directing resume.
I see. Yeah. So this was in 2000, and it's a story that takes place. It's a crime story that takes place in the French Alps, and it's Jean Reno and Vincent Cassel, and it's such a weird movie. It's a good movie. And it was a blockbuster, really, in France when it came out. Like, it made a lot of money, a lot of francs, a lot of euros. Paper. And shit.
Much franc.
But it's a murder mystery with Jean Reno as the lead detective going to investigate this murder, this ritualistic killing. There's a lot of, like, mysticism and stuff like that involved in this. Perceived mysticism. And it's at this very unique town that Vincent Cassel is the junior detective that accidentally is himself into it as well. And it's like a French version of a combination of Seven and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I mean that in the best way. There's some unusual parts in this movie, though. Like, there's a part, because it's methodical about how it builds this mystery and everything, and it introduces the characters. And then in the middle of it, Vincent Cassel gets into a kickboxing match with a bunch of Nazis.
Nice.
As you do.
He does. And there was a weirdness in this movie. And it's interesting because I think Vincent Cassel has said that this is, his highest grossing French movie, at least. And he's like, I know how much was cut out of this movie, and I'm glad people like it. I don't really like it because I don't think you really know what's going on. If you had shown it the way that Matthew Kasovitz wanted it to be shown, like I think you would really, really like it even more. Because I actually like this, but I could see what he means. I could see that there's stuff that is cut out that would give a little more context to it. And maybe in the service of letting him kick a bunch of Nazi ass.
Yeah.
And he's awesome at it. He's a very good fighter.
You know what might be Vincent Cassel's highest grossing movie in the U.S.?
Ocean's 12, right?
Probably. That's what I'm going to guess.
Jeez.
Maybe that or Jason Bourne, but I guess Ocean's 12 probably made more than Jason Bourne.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Jason Bourne, and then, Black Swan wasn't like a blockbuster.
Oh, it was.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I love the guy. And actually, these two leads are fantastic together because Jean Reno, I was telling Chris, actually, he kind of plays the same character in every movie, like the quiet, like, badass, whether he's good or bad or whatever. But like I dig it. I'm on board with it. And Cassell is a good bad boy type of dude. He's like the French Justin Timberlake or something like that, you know?
Isn't Jean Reno in a movie with Christina Applegate where he comes from like 17th century France or something?
Yes. Yeah. I forget what it's called.
Oh man.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's like Last Night or something
it
like
is,
that.
like
Is it?
like like the last night of France.
Oh God. Just visiting.
There you
This
go.
movie ad is
I get that
spectacular.
confused with the Hugh Jackman coming into our time from 18th century London. You know that movie?
Yeah, that's not Kate and Leopold.
It is Kate and
It is
Leopold
Kate and
with
Leopold.
Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Those two movies should be the same movie. That'd be awesome.
Oh, Jason Bourne, I think but it does have more money.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that made more than Ocean's 12.
162 domestic, 415 worldwide, and the Ocean's 12 made 125 domestic, 362 worldwide.
Oh.
So, Mubi is awesome. There's a huge variety on there right now. There's a Japanese movie about female sumo wrestlers that's 3 hours long, and that's the only thing that prevented me from watching it. But no, there's amazing variety on there right now. Go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins, MUBI.com/Cinemasins, and get 30 days, a full month free. And that's an awesome deal.
Yeah.
You should do it. You should do it right now. Stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin it.
Yeah.
and go ahead and sign up for your Mubi at themubi.com. Not the movie. Drop the.
Yeah.
Mubi.com/Cinemasins. Full month free.
Boom.
Okay, so I'm going to recommend
All right.
a movie that's already been recommended multiple times, but I finally just saw The Big Short.
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
Which is one Chris has been telling me to watch for 3 years now.
It's been a long time.
Won Best Picture.
No. It was nominated.
It did not win?
No.
Oh, the other one won.
Best picture was Spotlight.
Oh, Spotlight.
Yeah.
So that was the year before La La Land and Moonlight.
Correct.
Okay. And Spotlight's great too. Anyway, so first and foremost, because Chris has praised this plenty, and I think Bear has praised it before, Christian Bale is doing something in this movie I've never seen him do in terms of acting. And Bale's always good, I think. But I've never seen him play someone with quite so many ticks.
Yeah, quirks.
And
Right?
quirks.
Yeah.
And he was riveting. Steve Carell's great. I think he's playing very similar to the character he played in Vice. But I was telling these guys yesterday, I think the reason I love Big Short but didn't like Vice is that with The Big Short, I don't know these people. These people are not celebrities in any way. They're not government officials I recognize. I don't know this story. And so I liked being shown the story, whereas Big Short, I knew most of that already. Or not Big Short. Vice, I knew most of that already. And so maybe I didn't like having it fed to me by spoon quite so much. But I was riveted. I think it's over 2 hours. And it's not boring.
No.
Even though it should be. The topic, like, I watch it with my brother, his wife, and my wife, and none of us were lost. They do that Margot Robbie, Selena Gomez stuff to dumb it down for you. But even when they're not doing that, they're not speaking. Even when they're speaking in jargon, you know what they mean. You know what they're talking about. These guys are all betting that this shit's going to tank and they're going to make money off of it. And what I especially appreciated was I was about 30 minutes from the end of the movie, and I was like, man, all these people are assholes. And then the movie actually does show almost all of them have some measure of regret about their part in this whole explosion of the economy.
Yeah.
Especially Steve Carell. He has several moments of almost doubt or concern. And I appreciated that the movie showed me that. Even though in real life, maybe these guys didn't have any of that. Like from a viewer's standpoint, I needed to see that they weren't like giddy. Because if it had just
he's
been,
emotional. He breaks down.
He does.
Yeah.
Well, he's also had his brother committed suicide.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really, really dug it. Everything these guys have said is great. All the acting performances are great. It's funny. And yeah, if you didn't know what happened, this movie does a pretty good job explaining how the economy crumbled in 2008.
For sure. And just all the, I think like a lot of these movies, like All the President's Men and everything, you may know like a sliver of the story and you're like, well, that's bad. But then you realize it's even worse than you thought it was, especially in the way it gets into just general like government entities and everything were trying to keep covering up for it each time.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where that number, that whatever that number is that they're trying to get to go down, and I can't remember what they call it in that, but it's basically showing the housing market is just going, but they keep getting these entities to say, oh, well, it's fine, it's AAA or whatever.
Yeah.
And they keep covering for it over and over and over again. So meanwhile, you have these guys who are hoping to profit from it going down. They have a really horrible moral quandary during that thing, because they're like, this is supposed to go down. You're doing illegal shit. But at the same time, you're doing something that's going to capitalize on the misery of millions.
Yeah. Well, and even when Christian Bale starts going around to the banks are eager to give him millions.
Yeah.
Because they want to make money and they think he's a moron.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we'll give you $30 million. Well, you want to bet against the housing market?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you as much as you want, because they all see an easy payday.
Who the hell doesn't pay the mortgage?
Yeah, exactly.
Then he goes out of that. I think it's Bank of America at the first one, and he's like, he sees these cups, and he's like, "Can I have these cups?" Oh yeah, sure. Take two of them if you want. Yeah, and Ryan Gosling is fantastic, and
he's fucking hilarious.
I was watching this movie next to Barrett on a plane from Chicago, and like, there's that scene. I can only imagine what it's like just looking over and seeing the scene. But he's in that bathroom, and he's like, "Object to the tits! Object to the tits!"
And of course, he's got the subtitles on. So I'm like reading a magazine or something like that. I looked over, and he's like, "Object to the tits!"
Yeah, that movie is great. If we do a best of the decade, which is a hint, that will be in it for me probably.
So 2015, right? Is that what we said?
Yeah. But yeah, that movie's fantastic, and like I think it's one of those where I could go scene by scene and tell you there's something great about it.
Yeah.
So the day Disney Plus came out, I went ahead and got it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was resistant to it when I first heard about it. I was like, I got it because of this job, I think, because I feel like I need to be on top of these things. Although I don't know how far that's going to go. I don't think Apple TV is necessary right now.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. But I went through. I'm gonna go through a little a smattering of things that I saw on Disney Plus. First off, I've been following The Mandalorian, and I think that's a good show.
Mm-hmm. Just good.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not ready to just come all over it yet. But
Yeah. Wiggle your hips, come on your lips, get ready. I personally haven't seen it, but I am ready to come on it. Honestly,
see Baby Yoda, and you're like, oh, God.
The only way I can get off anymore is if I have a
You have to finish that.
I have a picture of Star Wars character on the
Oh
table.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I get Obi-Wan mixed up in my solo play, or do I get Solo in my solo play? So yeah, The Mandalorian is good, and the episodes are fairly self-contained. I mean, there is a thread of a story going on there, but it's more like, like how Bruce Banner in the old Hulk series is going from town to town, and or David Banner back then.
Yeah.
He's going from town to town, and he gets caught up in these plots and everything, and that's when he has to turn to the Hulk and change. Mandalorian is almost the same sort of deal because he's going place to place and everything. And yes, of course, there is a maybe not so surprise character that I won't get into, even though many people probably already know, but so far so good on that.
When does that take place? Like, when is that set?
It is a few years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
And yes, it's disorienting a little bit where you're sitting there going, I don't know when this is, and they'll give you little hints, and you're like, okay, that's got to be after Jedi, but is it maybe possibly? I mean, you don't know exactly how far into it. It seems like it's fairly recent after, because they're still talking about cleanup on Endor and all this type of stuff that's in there. So
it's not explicit. It's not like in 2 years later.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe they have done some explicit thing and just haven't heard it or whatever. But so far so good on that series. And I didn't really bring up Disney Plus to bring up that series necessarily. Just that I have been watching it and I think it's good. I watched The Rookie based on Jeremy's Jeremy's recommendation. It was just one of those movies that yes, I love baseball and I had heard of this. I've heard about this guy who pitched for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time. But I had never seen the movie, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah. It's not gonna win Best Picture, but for a baseball lover who likes a decent sports movie, there's something about that scene when he finally comes out at the end to pitch in Texas before the Tampa Bay Rays, and his family's there, and his little kid's there, and his fucking dad is there. Brian Cox. And Brian Cox waits for him afterwards to talk to him about it's been so cold in their relationship.
Yeah.
There's something magical. I don't even think that. I don't know. I don't think that's how it played. I don't think he was called in and he struck out somebody on 3 strikes.
He did strike that guy out. That specifically, that I think it was Royce Clayton, and it was on 4 pitches, not 3. Okay. But that did happen actually. Now the movie is, I guess, necessarily incomplete because it's not like this guy went on to have this illustrious career.
Right.
Much like a Rudy or somebody like that, they have their moment in the sun, and it's amazing they even got this far, and that's the story. But yeah, I mean, the guy ended up. I mean, I don't mean to say this to demean the guy, because his story is amazing. I'm glad that he got his shot and everything, but he was not an effective pitcher for.
No, he didn't last very long.
And what do you expect? The guy was like 40 something when he finally got his debut.
Yeah.
Is that how old he was?
Yes.
Yeah. Holy shit.
That's why I love when he goes to the open tryout, because he basically promises. He's a baseball coach who had a shot 20 years ago. He tells his kids, if you win state or whatever, I'll go try out for this other team or for the pros again or whatever. And they fucking do it because. Well, I guess it's based on a true story, so they must have won some games.
Well, yeah. See, he tells them they notice that he can throw pretty hard, and he doesn't know how hard he can throw. He just thinks it's like, oh, well, it's hard for these kids, but not like major leaguers or anything like that. And they're a terrible baseball team, and they suck and everything. And then like one day in practice. He one of the kids, Jay Hernandez plays, is
Suicide Squad's Jay Hernandez.
Exactly. Is like, come on, coach, we want to see if we're gonna get good, we're gonna have to see some real good pitching and everything, and you should do that and everything. So he's throwing them like these heaters and everything,
and they get instantly good.
Yeah, they get instantly good from that. It's one of those amazing things that happens in sports movies. Like if all we do is we can add the kid who's on the motorcycle, we can be good. But like, he tells them after a loss, he's like, I can't remember what exactly gets him to this, but he's saying you guys are not pursuing your dreams or something like that, and they're like in some small Texas town where nobody really pursues their dreams, And he goes, "What about your dreams?" The kid's saying to him, and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Come on, coach, you throw like this incredible fastball and everything. You had a chance way back when. Why don't you go and try out sometime?" So he says, "All right, I'll make a deal. If we win the state or whatever, the district or whatever, I'll go out and try out." So that's how that all happens. Yes, the team suddenly gets amazingly good. I'm assuming they're already good,
Probably.
and in real life, and then they win the district, and then he goes off and does this open tryout.
The Tampa Bay scout guy comes up to him after he throws pitches, and he's like, "Listen here. If I call the home office and tell them I got a 40-year-old prospect out here, I'm going to get laughed at. But if I don't call the home office and tell them I got a 92 mile an hour fastball, I'm going to lose my job."
Yeah.
All I'm saying is you might get a call on this.
Yeah. And I think in real life, that scout was not interested at all, but he told them about him and everything, and his fastball is 97, 98 or something like that. That's how hard he's throwing. There is a good scene. I'm pretty sure it's Hollywood, but it's a good scene where he goes off to he's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's one of those speed things that tell you, "Hey, you're going too fast for this road," and it means nothing. You just blow past it, nobody cares. He goes out and he throws this fastball, and it's just, every single fastball he throws has this sound every time he throws it. And it's like it shows 74 on that, and he gets all dejected and everything. He walks past the sign to go get the ball and everything, and then these little lights pop up, and it was really 94 is when he threw it.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
Yeah, so
I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah, I am too. I had it's something that I kind of always wanted to watch, but now with Disney Plus, I was able to watch it. I also, and I'm sorry to hog this whole little section here, but this is the Disney Plus section.
Sure.
I also watched their original movie Noelle.
Oh, with Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick and Bill Hader.
I heard it was good.
It's actually pretty good.
All right.
Is this a Christmas movie?
It's a Christmas movie.
She's
Bill
like
Hader?
Santa's daughter?
Yeah. She's Santa's daughter. Bill Hader is the Santa in waiting.
Really?
And they live in the North Pole, and like it starts off with like Santa Claus coming to their house, and you think this is like every Santa, every movie where kids are at home and they see Santa or whatever, but that's actually their dad that's coming through and everything. So the dad dies. Bill Hader is the Santa in waiting and everything, but he's not very good at it.
Huh.
And so there's these elder elves or whatever who form a board, and they think that only men can be Santa Claus and everything.
Of course they do. Yeah.
And meanwhile, Anna Kendrick obviously has all the Santa Claus gifts. Like knows people, knows whether they're good by looking at them, and knows all the languages of the world, all these type of things. The movie is not great or anything. It's your typical holiday feel good movie. But Anna Kendrick is just so charming in everything that she's in. Like, she elevates these things that are like, mid-level like nonsense to like something like, oh, this is approaching watchable. It's actually ends up being pretty good. I watched the whole thing.
That movie was originally going to have a theatrical release, and then when they started getting their Disney Plus plans gathered up, they decided to make that one of their tentpole opening movies for Disney Plus.
Makes sense.
I've got Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
My mini rant is that none of my smart TVs have apps for Disney Plus. So while I have signed up for Disney Plus, I can only watch it on my computer.
So wait, okay. So here's a question for you. When you go to your apps thing, it gives you a bunch of pre-selected apps. So you have like YouTube, Netflix, stuff like that. Do you have an app store? That's how you get it.
But I didn't see it in there. Maybe my TV's too old.
I don't know. I don't know. I would assume you can find it. I bought that TV downstairs, and it did not have anything that just said Disney Plus on it. And then I went to the App Store, and then I had to type in Disney Plus all the way before it would actually even show up.
That may be what I didn't do.
So I would try either Disney Plus with the sign or Disney Plus spelt out and see if that gets you.
Because you know what I'm going to watch? Candle Shoe.
Candle Shoe.
The Jodie Foster.
The Jodie Foster movie I saw 30 times when I was a kid because it was so fucking wholesome. My mom didn't care if I watched it over and over and over again.
But I don't know how old your TV is. That is very possible that your TV is too old to pick up something like that. But if it has an app store, usually it's updated. And like, I know that I probably can't get it on some of these old Blu-ray players that I have that are internet connected because they don't really have an app store. Maybe they do. I just never really looked into it, but usually you can find that stuff. But yeah, that TV down there, I was like, oh, I guess it's not on there yet. And I went all the way.
Wow.
And finally got it.
I definitely didn't do that.
So,
what do you got?
I was going to go with negativity, but I'm going to bring in some positivity.
All right.
Because there was a series that I watched that I really could not wrap my head around why it was so popular. But last night I watched a movie that I hadn't seen in a long time that just absolutely engrossed me. Black Swan.
Yeah.
We've talked about Black Swan before. Darren Aronofsky directing Natalie Portman, who was nominated for the Academy Award. She won for this. And Mila Kunis, Barbara Hershey plays her mom, and Winona Ryder plays the
Winona Ryder,
previous prima donna, and Vincent Cassel again.
Yeah.
In this role. This movie is absolutely genius. If you liked The Wrestler, this is, I think, the better version of The Wrestler, meaning that it's got the same camera movements. It's got a lot of that kinetic over-the-shoulder type of things and everything, and it's got a lot of the choreography like The Wrestler did, and like the brutality of the choreography and stuff like that. I just think he hit a absolute grand slam with Black Swan. Natalie Portman is reliably great in whatever she does, but this is like a whole new level. And Mila Kunis is sex personified in this movie. This is an absolute recommend. So if you haven't watched this movie, you should go out and watch it. It's got a big old mind fuck about 80% of the way through it, and ends on a nice little note that you could interpret in a few different ways.
I think you could take a lot of Aronofsky's work, maybe even most of it, but certainly Black Swan, The Wrestler, and Ass to Ass. And you could Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream. I couldn't think of the name of it. And say that each one of them is a portrait of how far someone who can't let go of something is willing to go to keep hold of it.
Yeah.
Because the Requiem for a Dream, it's basically about drugs and getting the drug fix. But the Wrestler, he's been told, stop, it's going to kill you. He cannot. He can't stop. And then Black Swan is filled with these moments that show you the physical toll that ballet takes on people's bodies, whether it's, tearing off toenails or, and it's just sort of a borderline obsession that I don't think everyday people like you and me live our lives with. And so that's why I think he's such a fascinating filmmaker, is that there are people like this all over.
Yeah. You could see it. I bet you, in fact, there was a moment, this is like the New York Ballet. This is the big time and everything. So getting the lead spot in a company like this is like the ideal. And there's a shot of all these ballerinas like lining the hallways, stretching and getting ready to go to practice. Like they're getting ready to practice.
Yeah.
Not even before a performance. And I was thinking at that moment, like, he had to have gotten inside knowledge of this, of like how this works and what you have to do to prepare your body. There's all those great shots of her taking perfectly new ballerina slippers,
and
ballet slippers, and fucking them up, like tearing out the inside.
I think he did, because her now husband, Benjamin Millipede, was not only, I think, an extra in that movie, but he was the ballet consultant.
Oh, yeah.
Natalie Portman's current husband was a ballet expert. And I'm sure he gave them lots of information on how it really works.
Yeah, God, it's so it's funny because the realism is there, but it's such a head fuck of a movie.
Yeah.
Because you're going through, and God damn, Natalie Portman, it starts with this virtuous portrait of a perfect ballerina.
Yeah.
She does everything right. She studies the techniques. You can tell how weird her home life is.
She's meek. She does,
meek.
she lets her mom lord over her. But the movie parallels her embracing the role of Swan Lake or the Black Swan.
The Black Swan, yeah. She has to do what she does to get to that performance. And if you think about it in the context of the movie, this may have been the greatest performance of all time because she becomes Superwoman at that point. She combines her perfect technique with this. Vincent Cassel is trying to get her to lose it on stage the way that the Mila Kunis character can.
Yeah.
But she's not nearly as precise as the other one. And it's just an absolute magical story. I forgot how much I adored this movie.
Yeah,
This has an ending similar to Birdman, right?
It's a little bit more clear than Birdman. Yeah,
I think so. Well, yeah.
I haven't seen Black Swan since it came out.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Yeah.
So what? So wasn't there a debate as to whether she had died at the end?
I think that's yes. There's no debate over whether she's got a maybe mortal injury.
Yes.
But whether she dies after the movie or not, I think is left up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not like Emma Stone looking up into the sky.
So it is a lot more like The Wrestler then, because The Wrestler has that same kind of deal where you can decide whether or not he died at the end and everything.
Unless they come out with The Wrestler 2 and tell you exactly what happened.
Exactly.
You don't get to decide anything anymore.
That's right. You might get to see him
El
go.
Wrestlerino.
Yeah.
What about a double prequel where the Mickey Rourke from The Wrestler dates Natalie Portman from Black Swan? No, that would not work.
Have I got your Aronofsky boner up right now?
Sure. I mean, it's usually up.
Why haven't you watched Mother yet? You need to watch Mother.
Everything that anybody ever told me about that movie told me I would not enjoy it.
Why? What? Really?
Yeah.
I heard that it's fucked up, confusing, and lots of biblical allegories.
But you like you don't huh? You like fucked up biblical allegories, right?
I don't know about that.
And you like Aronofsky. I think Mother is maybe the most Aronofsky-esque movie that he's made since Pi.
Have you seen The Fountain?
Yeah, I think The Fountain's such a weird movie because I think I like aspects of it, but I think he missed the mark. I think he was shooting for a certain thing, and I dug that idea, but I don't think he executed it.
Yeah,
well.
I'm not actively avoiding Mother. I just the vibe I remember getting from even friends was that you probably might not like this.
I would love to hear what you think of it.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what you thought, but I would be in that camp that thinks that you wouldn't like Mother.
It's not like Midsummer, where there are things I will like, but there's enough that will cringe me that people are like, you don't want to watch. It's not like that. Like I don't think there's anything in Mother that's going to make.
Yeah. There's about as much disturbing violence in Mother as there is in Midsummer, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I don't
it's all
think
in
it's
context.
graphic though.
Yeah, well, I mean at the end maybe, but like I don't think to me because I am exactly like you when it comes to gore and gross stuff and shit like that. I don't want to see that, but in context, things like Midsummer and things like Mother, I think are perfectly fine. I'm so wrapped up into the story with both of those so much that I'm like whatever, man.
Trying to stumble around and figure out what Vincent Cassel's biggest movie was. Black Swan made 106 million domestic, so it was its third in that list, and then it made 329 million worldwide. If anybody wanted to be like really stickler about it, he was a voice in Shrek, which would really technically be the number one, but we're not going to count that.
We're not counting that.
Yeah,
Well,
but there's going to be some. If this were an actual debate that people cared about, there would be some asshole out there that'd be like, he was a voice in Shrek.
I
Was
think
he Robin Hood in Shrek?
he's like one of the princes or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually can't remember.
I think one of the greatest lost to time movies we'll never see was when Aronofsky was going to do Batman Year One. Because I think if you take that wrestler Black Swan Aronofsky, who is so good at showing the brutality of things and obsession, and you put that into Batman and Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
that could have been fucking rad.
Yeah.
I'm still geeked about Matt Reeves' Batman, but I'm just saying that's one lost to time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't miss the Jude Law, Colin Farrell Justice League that they talked about for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I don't miss that. That would probably have been ass. But Aronofsky doing Batman Year One, that would have been pretty
I
rad.
think that would have been pretty badass. Yeah. Yes, and Cassel played Monsieur Hood.
Monsieur Hood.
Oh, so it is Robin Hood.
Yeah, he's French as fuck.
Yeah, he is. Do we want to go ahead and do some questions?
Let's do some questions.
Oh, that's true.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
My heart wasn't in it.
You just casually want the truth.
I sort of want some facts.
I'm going to start with the fun one here. And this person gave us a list. Who is your favorite TV/movie bad guy ever? And the selections that this person gave us were Tony Soprano, Dexter Morgan, Walter White, Omar Little, never seen The Wire still, sorry, Tony Montana.
See, I thought this was your list. And so when I got to Omar Little, I was like, is Barrett going to pretend like he's fucking seen The Wire when he hasn't?
No, it's not my list. Michael Corleone, Hannibal Lecter, Kaiser Soze, or other.
Why don't you just take them all there, question asker? Took all the good answers.
Well, I actually confined my answer to this list because if you do allow, and not to say whatever you guys want to do, but to let the mind wander, you've got a million different TV movie villains that you can choose from. So what do you guys think?
I went old school.
Uh-huh.
Old school. Child of the 80s here.
Uh-huh.
So the first villain I thought of was Murdoch from MacGyver.
Ah,
Dude,
Murdoch.
I love that answer so much. I loved that character.
Now, Murdoch was, for the reason I love Murdoch, he was straight up fucking insane.
Yes.
World's best hitman. Played the piano. Favorite weapons were bazookas and RPGs. He was a master booby trap maker. He always showed up at least once per season, and he always died at the end of his episode. And then the next season, his reveal to still be alive would be this big shot. He was also cross-dressing a lot, his master of disguises.
Yeah.
Straight up insane villain, and I loved it. Now I was allowed to watch MacGyver because my uncle, God bless him, told my parents, "Hey, we watch this show MacGyver. He doesn't use guns. Whenever he punches somebody, it hurts like he breaks his hand."
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, "That sounds whole," and it was.
I mean, it relatively was.
So
sure.
I was allowed to watch it. Lots of math and science used by MacGyver, and he didn't like guns, didn't use guns. But every time Murdoch would show up, I would be like, "Yeah, boy!" The other one, same era, was Knight Rider. There were two foes that I loved. Carr, K-A-R-R. He was like Kit. You remember Kit? That's Michael Knight's car. Talks to him, but also has like adamantium shell or whatever. He's basically indestructible. That's why he can go through concrete walls and shit. Yeah. Carr, evil twin of Kit. And there actually is a show where they ram into each other head to head. Then Goliath was a semi-truck made of the same Kit adamantium whatever bullshit. And they had a head-to-head face-off too. And he explodes Kit into millions of little pieces so that RC has to come back and rebuild Kit. And that final season, that's where Kit has all those fins that come out of all over the place. When they hit the C button, he goes convertible, and he got like racing spoils and whatnot.
Wow. I never watched Knight Rider, so this is all new. Are they autonomous? Like, does Kit require Hasselhoff to rev him to get him going?
Oh no. Hasselhoff can talk into his watch and say, "Kit, I need you, buddy." And then Kit will break through. He'll break through the walls. He'll go how fast as he needs to. He'll do 0 turn radius, whatever, and pick up Michael, and then he go off. And then there's a bad Michael Kit, evil Michael Knight, who was with Carr. He was like an evil twin, I think.
But they don't need. So Hoff needs Kit more than Kit needs Hoff.
Exactly. But Kit also cannot walk into a building and interview suspects.
It's very true. It's very true.
The need for Michael Knight was pretty strong there. Kit can't, go into the police station. Things like this.
He's just like nudging up to the door. Sir, can you come out?
I had other answers, but I'm going to stick with those two because they're both right in my childhood. And I just love whenever they would show up. I love those old recurring once a season bad guys. Well, like Q on Next Generation. He would show up once a season. I didn't like him quite as much, though. But anyway.
Yeah, I just looked up. He was, Murdoch was 9 episodes of MacGyver.
Yeah, and I think there was only like 7 or 8 seasons. So he was almost once a season.
Yeah.
I loved MacGyver. That was my fucking jam growing up. That was one of my must-see, I think it was Friday nights,
I haven't watched any of the new MacGyver.
I watched the hell out of MacGyver, and I couldn't tell you one episode.
Yeah, I can just see images, basically.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm probably in the same boat. I remember one time, the only one I remember vividly was he had never played billiards before. And it was some kind of life or death billiards game, as you find yourself in. And he used physics. his knowledge of physics to know where to hit the ball and how it would spin, and he totally killed that other guy in billiards.
What was his deal? Was he like an astrophysicist or something like that?
I don't know. He was like a science whiz. He was like
I don't know.
Bill Nye the Science Guy, only more athletic.
Yeah, they would always throw him in some storage place where there was stuff to fuck around with. I was like, at some point, don't you just kill the guy? He's been able to escape out of everything.
It's the same with the old Batman show.
Yeah.
Like, why you always got to put him in a trap with a saw? Why can't you just fucking shoot his ass?
I would probably normally go off the script here. There's a few others where it's like Darth Vader would be a good one, just because of his arc is so well made and everything. But I'm going to go on the list and just say Walter White because there's very few villains that you can point to where that guy was essentially the good guy. And he was only doing the things that he was doing for his family. And then as the seasons went on, he realized how good he was at the things that he was doing and didn't want it to stop anymore. And that he was doing it for the wrong reasons by about season 2 or 3, maybe.
But you're still rooting for him at that point,
You're still
right?
rooting for him until he gets to the point where he is just actively murdering people and everything. And you see his full... transformation. I mean, it's what's in the title, right? You see his full transformation from good guy who is passionate about teaching science to high school kids to drug overlord who's like way smarter than your average drug overlord and everything. Gets to the point where he's a kingpin of this whole thing. And yeah, you get to the point where you're actually actively hoping he gets caught because he is such a foul person by the time it gets to the last season. When Hank is on his trail and everything, you really do hope that he gets him.
I guess so. The show. The only time I didn't root for him is when, and it was the show's intent, I'm sure, is when he was so brutal to Jesse in the Ozymandias episode. Because you could still see scraps of good in him when he threw the investigators off the scent and everything when he called Skyler. But the show always did a good job of setting up somebody that was even worse than him. Even in the later seasons, he had Gus, and then he had the white supremacists and all that stuff. So it's like, oh man, Walter's an asshole, but at least he's not that bad, right?
Yeah.
So I think there was still a measure of balance there.
Clearly that bad by the end of that show. He's clearly as bad as Gus by the end of that.
By the very end, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. And it was a weird thing for me because for the longest time you sat there and go, I hope Hank doesn't find out. And then when he does, there's some sort of catharsis that comes along with that. It's one of my favorite little reveals at the end of a season is him looking through that Walt Whitman thing at the end. And finally putting it together, and it leaves you there for however long it was. It was
like 6 fucking months.
Yeah, and then he knows, and then by the time it's that whole if you really believe that, you should tread carefully and all that type of. That's where you're like, okay, this motherfucker needs to go down. I know that a lot of people know they just kept wanting Walt to commit crimes and just continue getting away with it. But it was at that point I was like, fuck him.
That's interesting. I actually never did. The show was just playing with my emotions the right way, or the way that I imagined it, to where I was like, how is he going to get away with this now? Because I'm fully on board with, the only time he kills people is to get out of something, that kind of thing. And, he's not really harming people by making the drugs. He's not even really making the drugs anymore at the end of the show. But it was really all the way up until that shit with Jesse at the penultimate episode that I was still on board with him. I was like, man, I want to see how he gets out of this. And then when he's pinned down with Hank and all that stuff, I was genuinely saying like, well, I'm sure they're going to write the way out of it.
I mean, we as viewers allow a lot of shit Walt does for a long time, and I let it go for several, many seasons. By that last season, I was like, I happy to be against him for a while. And yes, he has this one moment of goodness towards the end and everything that redeems his character.
Yeah, but it is kind of fun. Not fun. It is. I found it satisfactory as a viewer to see him shivering his ass off in that cold little shack with no belongings and no friends. Like, that kind of what he deserved, I think, maybe even more than death.
Yeah.
But they did his break to bad so incrementally that, you know, like season 4, you're like, well, he poisoned a kid, but
I know. That's what I'm saying. If you ever stood back from this show, you would realize, man, I shouldn't like this guy at all. Yeah.
Some of the effect actually is undoubtedly that I saw this way after the fact, and I binged it all the way through. So I didn't have those moments of reflection to say, like, man, he poisoned a kid. Because I'd just go on to the next episode and be like, oh, what's he going to do next?
You talking about him breaking bad so gradually reminds me of that Simpsons thing where Marge is like, I think they're in the future, and Marge is like, Fox turned into a hardcore sex channel so gradually, I didn't even realize. You just hear, I think you can hear like a grunt or something.
oh man!
I also stuck to this list, and well, I've already talked about how Michael Corleone I think is just a horrible person all the way through.
And there's another guy you can sort of see an arc from good guy. You don't get to see much of his heroism or anything like that. Because even from the opening scenes, you can see that evil growing and everything. But he also has sort of an arc where you're like, okay, yeah, it didn't seem like he's that bad of a guy. And then suddenly by the end of it, he's like, oh shit, this guy, this is for real.
Yeah, for real. And so my pick would be Tony Soprano, because his arc is, I think, almost entirely internal. Because he's already at the top of the food chain pretty much at the beginning of the series. He's a captain, and he's only under, I think, Jackie and Uncle Junior. And so basically he runs his group. He runs his unit. And then, you know, after Jackie dies, then he gets promoted to whatever it is, street boss or whatever it is. And that's the whole dynamic where he puts Junior in charge, so he takes the whole thing. But the arc over the seasons is him coming to know who he is, what his impact is, and through facilitated by the Lorraine Bracco character. And it's so interesting it's not a transformation. It's a transformation mentally, but not actively. Like at the end of it, you could say that he's a family man. Like he loves his family. He's comfortable with his family. He's comfortable with where he is in life. But nothing really changes on the outside except for a bunch of people died.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a series that I would want to go back and watch from the very beginning again. Have you guys seen it more than once?
Yep.
I've seen the entire series, and I've probably seen other episodes more than once, but I haven't seen the entire series more than once.
That's another one that I was late to the party on, and it took several tries. Same thing will happen with The Wire, I'm sure.
I had a weird, because the way Sopranos aired, I saw it when it first came on, because that was 99 when it first came on, and I had HBO and everything. And then I didn't have HBO for a while and missed 2 or 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly had it back again. And then they had these like long hiatus, like 2 years sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the series ended until 2008, but it only had 6 seasons or something like that. So, but I've seen several episodes a few times, but not the whole thing.
Another perfect series finale too.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so too, and I've run into people who hate it, but
just from the abruptness.
Yeah, they want to know. They want to have the tied up in a bow ending.
Well, I hope David Chase doesn't do an El Camino thing.
Once he's gone, there's no reason for us to be there anymore as the viewer,
right?
Because he's always been our window into this world, and so if you're going to kill him in the finale, I feel like this is the only way you could do it and do it justice. If you pull back from that perspective and show us him being shot and or the aftermath or then you have sort of cheated your own show. I think it's brilliant.
Do you have like a pretty good feeling that he dies at the end of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In my mind, there has never been a question. Now, granted, there's enough question in other people's minds that I have to remain open to it. But it always seemed pretty obvious to me. There's even fucking 4 episodes before that, where he's fishing with Bobby, whatever his name is, and they talk about what do you think happens when they get you? When do you think you see it coming, or do you think everything just goes black? That's fucking foreshadowing, people.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. And so, yeah, I think somebody came from behind him and shot him, and his family probably went into pandemonium and blood all over him. But that's not the story we're telling.
And I think David Chase has even come out and said I think it's obvious what happens, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Exactly.
That was I think that ending was ruined for me. That was one of the few times where like a show has been ruined for me. I mean, not ruined. I still like.
You didn't see it at the time?
I didn't see it at the time. It's 2008. I didn't have HBO. But that was one of those things where everybody was saying it just goes black. And I was like, oh, okay. So now I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, it's still, I've seen that episode probably 3 times or whatever. It's still shocking when it happens.
Yeah.
It is.
It's one of those that's so good and so well executed that you think you know when the black is going to show up, but I mean, I know now exactly what shot it is, but like, you know, if you revisit it, a lot of times it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And that was a thing too. Like people thought there was something wrong with their cable, and they called cable companies. And
I didn't call the company, but I totally thought that my cable had gone out, and I was like, and I did the classic reaction of like, fuck.
Yeah.
Did you watch it in real time, or like at the time?
No, I watched it in real time. And I'm pretty sure I went, what the hell? But I didn't think my cable was broken. I mean, that last scene in that diner is interminable. Like, they spend so fucking long, Meadow trying to fucking parallel park for 5 minutes, and it feels like an ending, even before it ends, because it's building up this sense of dread. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, this is one that we've had for a while that I really wanted to get to. What are some great movie scenes that are enhanced by the absence of musical score? An example of this person that says is the shootout scene in Heat. I actually didn't realize, because there's so much ambient noise going on in that scene, I didn't realize that there was no score in that.
I haven't seen Heat in a while. I know that there's that one when they start the robbery, that doom, 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 doom. I don't know if that's still going on even during that the thing that he says is silent here. Like maybe just very faint underneath, but maybe it is just completely gone by the point the shootout scene, which is a fucking excellent scene.
Yeah, it
is. Yep.
I'm going to go with when Hal rips off Frank's oxygen hose and shoots him into space in 2001. There's something about that, because he's he's out there, he's working on that thing, and then you see that like that cut zoom of Hal, and then suddenly you just see dude just flying out, and everything. And without music, it's so perfect.
Yeah.
It makes your stomach drop the way it happens and everything. You're like, oh no, that dude's fucked.
Yeah. Is he dead at that point?
No,
he's just going to die eventually.
Yeah,
That's
he
the way I
will
always took it.
eventually die.
Because does he cut off the hose? Because I know that Bowman goes to get him, and that's the whole I can't let you in.
Yeah, we've made sins before that it's instant death when you whatever, but you have a certain amount of time before you die. I mean, yes, a lot of the things that we see in movies where they are out in space and they're exposed to the elements, that's what happens, but it takes a little while. Maybe not like, maybe it takes maybe a minute or two or something like that, because apparently they've had simulations where they've had the effects of space on these simulators or whatever, and people have like accidentally been cut off, and they've had to go and save them. And as long as they're able to get them in time, they're usually okay. But yeah, it's just eventually he's going to die.
Yeah. And I guess he's got air in the suit, even though it may be leaking out of the hose.
Yeah, he'll live as long as that air stays, and then he'll either freeze to death or he'll just lose
I would
oxygen.
rather 1,000 sharks bite me to death one nibble at a time than die that way. Fucking out in space, looking at Earth from out there going, This is it for me.
Yeah.
What? It's not a bad way to go.
I would hate it.
You're out there. You're in outer space. You're in the universe.
I would probably die of a panic attack before I died of the elements.
That's true. That's true.
I just always thought it was weird that Dave goes after him. Like, I mean, it's not instant. Like, it takes him a while to suit up and get in the pod and all that shit and get out to him. I was like, I mean, I guess you don't want to leave his body out there, but like, you don't think you're going to save him, are you?
Yeah.
But you also have to, for the story, you have to get him off of the ship.
Yep.
I love that movie.
Similarly, there's a scene in The Departed when they throw Captain Queenan off the roof that it's just him, and I think all you hear is like a bird calling or something like that as he's flying out of the building. you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, that's when Leo's down there, or somebody. No, the other guy's down there smoking a cigarette, right?
Well, Leo is walking to the place.
Yeah.
And then just suddenly splats in front of him and everything. But that's one of those things where there's a lot of hubbub on the roof and everything, and Queenan is being very defiant, and then suddenly all you see is just his body just flying off of this thing, and it's very effective because there is no music and everything. So,
which is odd for a Scorsese movie. Like you always
I know.
See him peppering with like classic Rolling Stones music or something like that.
Yeah.
I ever since I talked about squelching in the Booksmart, every time Dicer runs into that word on the captions, he sends it to me. Apparently, there's some squelching in The Lighthouse because he sent me a black and white still of Robert Pattinson, and the subtitle said squelching, and Dicer said, "Thinking of you."
Oh my! Is he squelching Willem Dafoe?
I don't know what he's squelching.
I don't remember what the squelching would be in The Lighthouse.
Might be literal taking your foot out of the mud, which is where the word comes from.
That's a movie I can't wait to see with subtitles.
Yeah,
I bet.
yeah.
I bet there's a lot of mumbling in that movie.
Oh my God, dude! Willem Dafoe's doing a thing. Pattinson is fairly understandable, but it was just the way. I don't know if it was the theater sound or whatever, but man, I was like having to hang on to every word, trying to decipher what's being said.
I wanted to go. I'm going to give you two answers. I wanted to go with the hotel assault in No Country for Old Men, where the grunts and the shotgun blasts, the rifle blasts, and that fucking weapon Anton Chigurh uses, but like it's all punctuated by there not being any score, even his footstep when he's running out in the street to try and get around the corner. But the real answer I want to give is the town, specifically the big shootout at the end at Fenway Park, where they've robbed the money, they've changed from cops into EMT outfits, and they're about to leave, and then they look outside and they see every cop in Boston is out there waiting on them. And it turns into a shootout as the SWAT team creeps up on them. But midway through the shootout, someone throws a flashbang through the garage door, and you hear one of the good guys, one of Affleck's crew go, I think it's Affleck, cover your ears!
Cover your ears.
And they cover their ears, and the flashbang goes off. And not just the score, everything about the movie goes silent.
I got you.
Everything.
Yeah.
As though the viewer has just been fucking flashbanged. And it's amazing, because there's like 3 seconds of lingering. And then that idiot kid stands up and you hear Jeremy Renner go, no! And then the sound comes back and he gets popped. And it's just, I love that the absence of sound was used to show you what you would have heard if you'd been on set. Like if you'd been in the actual movie and that flashbang went off, all you would hear is that slight.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I caught the end of that fairly recently, actually. And one of my favorite moments is when Renner just refuses to go down.
Oh yeah.
He could have escaped in certain ways. He could have laid low for a while. He could have turned himself in or anything like that. He's just like, fuck it. No way.
At the end, he's behind a mailbox, and John Hamm goes, Coughlin, throw down your weapon. And he goes, fuck you.
Yeah. And then he takes a drink of that thing off at the street.
Trash soda.
And he's like, fuck it. Here we go. God damn, it's so good. I'll tell you what's really good is I caught Atomic Blonde again recently. Ooh. Now, that movie is not a great movie, but it's got some really good parts in it. And the fight that she has, I think it's a one-shot.
Yeah.
All the way through this apartment building.
I do think it's one of those, they hide the cuts, but yeah.
It's amazing. And there's no score. And it's amazing because it's a woman. You only usually see this with like Jason Bourne or something like that. There's a great scene with Jason Bourne and Dash versus Dash with no score. But she is, it's filmed so brutally that the choreography is just absolutely genius. And she's going through and it's not like punching people in the face and in the stomach and stuff like that. They're trying different ways. They're clawing eyes, they're ripping noses, like they're pulling ears, they're punching crotches and shit like that. They're kicking however they can. It's a life or death thing, and she fights off like fucking 10 of these motherfuckers. And they're not going down easily either. And there's no score at all, and it absolutely murders me. It's such a good scene. Watching that entire movie is worth just that scene, and also for the nudity.
Right? Yep.
And she be naked in that movie.
That was the movie where I realized like Charlize being in a tub of some kind was a thing. Because there's like that, I think I even wrote a sin for that movie where I was like, this is like the fourth movie where she's in a tub.
Yeah,
in that
like Snow
White
White
and the Huntsman, she's in a tub full of milk. I went and found a couple other ones too, but it's a thing. Coming out of the
and
tub.
she's definitely in a pool in Reindeer Games.
That's true. That's true.
Not the same deal, but she's in water.
And she's on a bed in 2 Days in the Valley.
Yeah, she is. She's on a bed.
Let's just start naming things.
That's right.
And she was on a church
she's-
pew in the Devil's Advocate.
She's crossing a street in trial and error. So it's been a little while, but I think we should probably recognize some of our Sinflowers on our Patreon.
Yeah, man. These are the members, the partners, the collaborators. They're members that work to support us, and we really, really appreciate them. These are at our tier that is the perks of being a Sinflower. You get all kinds of cool perks from doing that. You get registration for Sin Week 2020, which is coming up in March. But one of the perks is getting shouted out on the podcast. So we wanted to do that now. So thank you to Amanda Vieira, Darren Watson, Dexter Hansen, Evan Lucken, Greg Routine, Isaac Horvat, Jacob Martindale, Jeff Widman, John.
Just John.
There's a guy named John. There's a guy named Jonathan. Joseph Davis, Joshua Looper, Karen Kay, Luis Zinner, Madison Wilson, Marvin Castro, Michael Acton, Michael McGinnis, Morgan Greenwalt, Scott Batchelor, Will Fendrick, and Will Kostick. Thank you guys so much. We love you. We love you.
We should make a song. We should write a song about the Sinflowers.
And Amanda, Darren, Dexter, Evan, Greg, and Isaac, Jacob.
I meant like a good song, not like the Big Mac song with people's names in it.
No, I meant something not bullshit, Barrett.
Anyway, thank you guys. Love you.
Yeah. So, many of those I recognize from the first Sin Week. We have a few different ones in there too.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun Sin Week for sure.
I agree.
All right, that'll do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on SoundCloud. We're on Reddit. We're on Cinemasins Twitter. Music Video Sins Twitter. Discord. If you want to get on Discord, there's a link on the right side of the Reddit page, or you can go to the Facebook page and ask for a link in the private messages. So yeah, that'll do it for this week.
That's
Chris
right.
Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Remember when they tried to deliver my grill to Alabama?
Well, they made it all the way to Alabama, didn't
They did. They were there at somebody's house. Somebody was like, I guess we're not getting a free grill. Two Buck Chuck was my nickname when I used to rodeo.
You're right.
I'd make it $2, and then I was off.
Did your brother Good Luck go around dating women who would get married afterwards?
Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever go back and watch the American Music Award performances?
No. I saw Taylor Swift. Well, I did go back, but at the time they hadn't posted to YouTube.
Did you see the Billie Eilish, All the Good Girls Go to Hell?
No. Was it
First
good?
of all, that's my favorite song of hers by far. And it's the newest one that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And there's
It's
a
a good
section,
song.
like 2/3 of the way through the song where she finishes the chorus, and the music is like, doom, doom, boom, doom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it does it 3 times, and on stage, she does this twirly thing where she like says the line, and then she's like, doom, doom, boom. And it just works so perfect. I've watched that live performance like 5 times.
I got to check it out.
Because I'm starting to think she might be a great live show, whereas I used to think, like, she's a whisper singer. How could her show ever be great? But I think she.
How does it work? I mean, I've listened to that XM thing. I don't know how she gets that quality of sound because she's not like raising her voice. She's just making it work. Like I guess she's just right up in there.
Either that, or she's got that mic cranked,
or she may have a. Well, she doesn't sound like she's got a backing track.
No, it doesn't,
because it sounds
tiny imperfections.
Yeah, and that live show that was on XM didn't sound like she was doing anything special either.
Yeah.
She just sings that way.
That's how I sang.
Yeah.
I don't know why this just reminded me of that girl in Forgetting Sarah Marshall when he's banging everybody he can in the beginning. And it's that really hot girl, and she's like, oh, I just came.
Montage is so fucking great, man. I use that for outtakes and music video sends all the time, by the way.
It's a great little...
You have to really chop it up, though, because it's the oh.
Have you seen the extended version? There's another girl. There's a whole other girl that he sleeps with in the extended version.
Got the one where she's like, hi.
That one's in the regular. And he's like, hi. Hi. He's like, could you not talk?
This is, you can gag me or something like that.
Yeah, that's what she says.
Well, the funny thing is that...
Do you want to gag me? And he's like,
yeah.
Well, now, maybe.
Kind of.
It's hilarious that he just plows through fucking Los Angeles, too. Because, he's not like the guy that you would think would plow through Los Angeles. No. But he's like, I need to B my L on somebody's T's. You don't need to put your P in a V right now.
You both are very attractive. I think having sex with either one of you would be a real treat. Oh, man. I have like 9 movies I bought on Amazon Prime over the last 3 years that are just rewatchable as fuck. And every night I put one of them on. Like Horrible Bosses 2, Talented Mr. Ripley, Martian Extended Edition, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, A Simple Plan, Vacation with Ed Helms. But every night I put one of those on just as background noise while I'm writing sins. And I can turn over and enjoy a laugh.
You've told me this before, but what's in the extended edition of the Martian?
I just watched it again last night. It's one added scene where Donald Glover gets yelled at by his boss for spending time on this math instead of his job. This is before Donald Glover's plan becomes the deal.
Before he has the revelation, or
no,
after he has
the revelation, but before he presents it to NASA.
Okay.
And then everything else is just literally an extended scene. So, like, when he blows up the hab in the main movie, you see him duct taping tarp over the open hole. In the extended version, there's like 5 shots, and one of them has him like using a little hammer and using caulk, and basically he lights a match to find where the smoke is going out, to find all the itty bitty holes in that tarp to plug them up. Whereas the main version just shows you the end of him. It lets everything breathe a little more.
Dude, you gave me the extended version.
I love it.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, because occasionally I'll run across a 4K that I'm like, yeah, I'll replace my Blu-ray with that, even though it's not like, mandatory or anything like that. But sometimes I'll like, yeah, that would be a good one. I'm not doing that willy-nilly, but yeah, you should have the extended.
I think I've seen The Martian enough times where I would notice. If you hadn't told me that, I think I would have noticed those extra beats.
I think you would too.
I've seen that Forgetting Sarah Marshall unrated version more than I've seen the real version, so I don't even know what extra thing is in there now.
Well, that whole Kristen Wiig yoga scene is not in the
Kristen Bell version,
but it's fucking hilarious.
Hold on, Kristen Wiig or Kristen Bell?
No, Kristen Wiig. Kristen Bell's in the scene, but it's the Kristen Bell and Alba Snow go to yoga, and Peter is there, and he's terrible at yoga. The teacher is Kristen Wiig.
Oh, I forgot.
And she's like fawning over she's so Kristen Wiig in this movie. She's fawning over the celebrity nature of this. Like, everyone, you're doing great. Not you two. You're doing better than everybody else. You really have done this before. It's very obvious.
I've seen that scene, but I don't know how I would have.
And because Anchorman is like that for me now. Like I've seen the unrated version.
Oh, yeah?
I've seen the regular one, and so that whole scene where he's like, "I would never say fuck. I would never say fuck," and all that when he's getting carried out of the station.
Fuck! I never said fuck.
Yeah, that I've always thought that was the original thing, and I think we had a podcast where we were talking about PG-13 movies.
Yeah.
And somebody brought up Anchorman. I was like, Anchorman is R-rated as fuck, and started bringing up that scene. And I think it was you that brought up that that's the unrated version or whatever.
Yeah. What was I watching? When we were watching Knives Out. Knives Out is PG-13, right?
It is,
but it sneaks in 2 fucks.
I don't think so.
There's not Mickey Rourke, fucking Don Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, same thing.
He gets a fuck in at the beginning.
And
then there's one because they use the eat shit and all that stuff so much that I'm like, hold on, is this PG-13 rated? I just assumed it was R-rated, but then I think Daniel Craig gets a fuck in later on.
I didn't even catch those because I watched it the first time. I was like, wow, I guess that was PG-13. I didn't know either. And sure enough, I looked it up. And then the next time I watched it, I still didn't hear those 2 fucks. But of course, I'm desensitized.
That's not one that I felt like needed necessarily to be R.
No.
Anyway.
No. If they wanted to make it just real nasty, they would have done it. But they didn't need to.
Yeah, I mean, they could have like poured on a little bit more dialogue. Like scathing
could have had
stuff.
all these people being like just super mean to each other and just pepper it with fucks.
How'd you like those cookies? I don't want to say anything now.
You know whose raps are tight? My local Jersey Mike's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're very...
We should probably go ahead and start.